Hello, everyone. How are you doing? It is Thursday Tea Time Live. I, though, have coffee today because I'm tired because I was at the Ed Sheeran concert last night in Wembley and I've just driven back. So that was good, but we've got a lot to do today, a lot to tell you about. I've been on my travels, as you may have seen if you were watching me on Instagram. Last week, you may have seen my live came from Sudeley Castle, just quickly. So I was at Sudeley Castle. The following day, I was at Cardiff Castle. The day after that, Pembroke Castle, and the day after that, Caerleon. So, or however you pronounce it, in Wales. So I have been out and about, and I'm going to tell you all about that. I've also made some purchases of books, which I know you like to know about. So I'm going to tell you about that. So welcome. Thank you for joining me today. Give me a heart. I can see some hearts. I can see lots of familiar faces coming up, joining. So thank you so much. And I'm streaming live on YouTube and on Instagram. And hi, welcome if you're watching live. Welcome also if you're watching on the catch up. Thank you for doing that. And still, please comment down and say in the comments and say hi, even if you're on the catch up. Good morning, Colleen. Hi, Aria. Hello, Janice. I can see John's there somewhere. Hello, Amin. Lots of you. So welcome to my coffee time because normally I wouldn't drink coffee after 12. Oh no, too health conscious. But it's one of those days. Got in late. Long drive this morning. Hi, everybody. So you might have seen on Instagram, I just thought, I know it's not history, but some of you might appreciate seeing a full Wembley Stadium there for Ed Sheeran, and that's where I was last night. So let's get into this today then. So I'm going to tell you all about my travels, where I've been, a little bit more about each of the places that I have been looking at where I've been. Yes, Lottie Rose, I missed History After Dark last night, that because Ed Sheeran called, can you come see me in concert? So that's where I was. I hope the girls kept on track. I know sometimes I need to be there for that. I'm sure it was very much fun, as usual. Actually, with History After Dark, I must remember I've got to do I need to get back on the wagon with the podcast. So if you haven't caught History After Dark and you think that you have the heart and stomach of a king and a king of England, so you will be able to actually manage some swearing, some detailed descriptions of things, some honest opinions, then you can join us for History After Dark at 8:15 every Wednesday on history.after.dark on Instagram. And I will be, like I say, getting the podcast back with some new episodes soon. That if you haven't caught that already, then you can. We are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Anchor. They were quite harmless yesterday. Oh, wow. There you go then. Oh, thank you, Tara. Missed me on History After Dark. That's very sweet. Did you go to Ed last night? Yes. Oh, you were there as well. How amazing. Yes, it was fantastic. So lovely. Yesterday, so it was quite tame. What's happened to the girls? I need to have a word. I need to have a word. Hello in France, Escrow 11. How are you doing? Bonjour. It's about as much French as I know, as in croissant and pain au chocolat. There were moments. So I went to see Ed. I will get on to the history though. But yeah, Ed Sheeran was great at Wembley. It was fantastic. Really good set. Of course, he's simple in his music in that he's providing all of it. And yeah, it was good. Tara also went to the Tower of London in the morning. Oh, on a school trip. Sounds like you had quite a long day, Tara. So let me know if you're watching on YouTube as well. YouTube, I have to be a bit, I don't know. I don't quite understand what's happening with YouTube because it is on. I stream through Zoom now. So let's see if that works. So let me tell you about where I've been. Thursday, you may have seen that I came live from Sudeley Castle. It was just quick because it started to rain. And I had another 2.5 hour drive ahead of me that day. So we so I was there for I was actually there for two main reasons. One, because I'm tour managing a tour called On Progress with Anne Boleyn in September, and we go to Sudeley Castle, and I haven't been since for the last 2 years. So I thought I'd go and just check out the lay of the land, because things change over time. Not the history, obviously, just things like where toilets are, all these things that I have to think of as a tour manager. But the other reason was to film for sorry, I don't know if that's rustling, is to film for my patrons. So all of the patrons in nobility tier and above, you would have seen there is a virtual tour of the gardens. How highly so on YouTube. Thank you for checking that out for me. And oh, thank you, John. He says the garden tour was magical. So my idea was my plan was to go and do a tour of the gardens, which include the ruin of Richard III's Great Hall, or so-called Richard III's Great Hall, which is beautiful. And but the gardens themselves are beautiful. But there is the history there. So you have Richard III's Great Hall. You can see out over the from the sort of a terrace. There's a terraced area at the front. You can see out over the countryside. That's where, you know, people like Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn came, Elizabeth I came and went hunting. You can picture it when you see the landscape. So I filmed all this for the patrons, as well as the processional route that Catherine Parr would have taken from the castle to the chapel on site, St Mary's. And that processional route is marked out with arbours and archways with flowers growing up. So it's part of the garden, but it means you're following in the footsteps of the Queen and, of course, her lady in waiting, Jane Grey. You can also, again, as part of the garden, stand where Catherine Parr's chapel had been. So this is the chapel that she would have used, private chapel, that was on the side of the main sort of choir area, with the special window that you may have seen if you're on Patreon, you'll have seen this, but you may have seen this anyway, where you have the windows at an angle so that the person whose privacy you're protecting can still see the altar, but nobody in the congregation can see them because the windows are angled. And that is how Catherine Parr would have seen the altar at Sudeley Castle, at St Mary's at Sudeley Castle. Of course, that is also where she is buried. So I wasn't originally going to film that as part of the patrons virtual tour, but I did. I added it in because why not? Once I got there, I was like, I filmed the bit about the window outside, and that was partly, I was thinking, I can't just film it from the outside. I need to go inside and show them. But I'm always a bit wary in chapels and churches. If there was a lot of people there, you know, showing their respects or whatever, I didn't want to get in the way of that. But it turned out there weren't many people in there, so I was able to do it. Hi, Jenna, how are you doing? I am very well, thank you. Yes. So I have been on my travels, as I've been telling everybody. So I was going to say I'm tired. I'm only tired because I was up too late last night getting back from Wembley, and then I've just driven today. But other than that, I'm quite invigorated. Travelling gets me very energetic and excited. So Sudeley Castle was my first destination. And yes, if you want to know more about that, obviously come into my Patreon, which I may be streamlining soon. Don't panic, patrons who are already there. I need to work out how to do it, but I might be making that a bit more simple soon. So as well as telling you about where I've been, I'm also going to tell you about the tours for next year, or I'm going to mention the tours for next year. I'll give you more detail again another time. and also what we've been doing in Visiting Tudor Britain and what we've got coming up in Visiting Tudor Britain. Because I did Visiting Tudor Britain from my car on Friday because where was I? I'd already done Cardiff Castle, which I'll tell you about in a moment, and I was off to Pembroke. So Sarah joined me. She was the one leading, so she was the one telling us all about Tudor Norwich. So if you're interested in Tudor Norwich or Tudor places anyway, then definitely tune into Visiting Tudor Britain on a Friday at 4:00. We rotate who's hosting. Last week it was me, so on British History Tours with the underscores in between the words, and you can see it again. Imagine this last night, this comfort, sorry, well behaved last night. Everything was my fault, was it? Oh, that's just cheek. Hi Gab, how are you doing on YouTube? Nothing's ever my fault. I nothing ever. I don't do anything wrong ever. So there we are. So we were Sudeley Castle. If you want to know about Tudor Norwich, look at my on my Instagram after this, and you will find the video from that. And Sarah was telling us, Sarah at the Tudor Travel Guide, was telling us all about Tudor Norwich and how this one street that the name of it fails me at the moment, my brain fails me, but it was completely demolished by fire. And so it was completely rebuilt in the Tudor period, and because of the fire, the building standards of this street, they were more they had in mind anti-fire, more robust houses, and this street survives to today. So yeah, what's everyone saying? Oh, I was missed on History After Dark, but no one was there to control us, and the two Catherines are a bit bad influences. I know, right? I have to come in and do the mummy thing. Yeah, I'm from. Oh dear. Anyone who hasn't caught History After Dark yet, like I say, have a go. Get yourself G'd up before you do it, especially some of them. So it sounds like last night was quite tame. Hi Anandita, how you doing? All the way over there in India. I'm great, thank you very much. I'm good. Where was I? So yes, Visiting Tudor Norwich. Check that out on my videos, on my videos tab on Instagram. They had tech problems and I wasn't there to sort them out. Okay, so that was my fault. I mean, it was Ed's fault, really. Ed Sheeran's fault. You had to. Do you know, I actually had tickets for Alanis Morissette, and it got postponed twice. And by the time she postponed it the second time, we'd already booked Ed Sheeran, and they were for the same night. So I was a bit gutted by that. She was on at the O2, so I definitely wouldn't have been back in good time. So from Sudeley Castle, I went on. So Sudeley Castle, I knew already. The next few places that I went to, there were fact-finding missions because I've never been to them before. So I will tell you about them. There's Cardiff Castle, Pembroke Castle, and Caerleon. If I've said that right, it's in Wales. I apologise if it's completely bad pronunciation. I have no idea. So anyway, so I went to Cardiff Castle, which straight away was fascinating. By the way, don't park in the NCP car park nearby. Literally extortionate. £19 for 3 hours. I nearly died. But Cardiff Castle, right, it's got history going from Roman times. There's quite a lot of Roman history on the borders and into Wales, which I'll come back to. So there was a fort here in Roman Britain when the Romans had stretched their empire out to here, and then this happened a lot when the Normans invaded and the Norman conquest happened. They chose sites of old Roman sites to build castles, probably for a number of reasons. One, there was already some building materials there. Two, they were strategically good. for defence and transport links, which is why the Romans had chosen them. And thanks to the Romans, we also had the roads, the road network. So this is another reason. Now, the original keep is still there. So you've got a Norman keep, which you can go up into. It's hexagonal. I don't know if they meant it to be hexagonal or whether they were going for round and that was the only way they could do it. Yes, I know. We need to open up a car park, my journalist says. We're definitely in the wrong business if you can charge £19 for 3 hours. £19, what would that be in dollars, sort of thing? American dollars, it's the mid-20s, maybe more. Just ridiculous. Anyway, there's a top tip. If you go, don't pay for the NCP, well, don't go to the NCP car park. You know, I have a thing about car parks. If I'm going to go somewhere, I need to know that I can stop easily. So at Cardiff, you've got this hexagonal Norman keep up on the motte, and that is still explorable. You can still walk up to it, climb up to it, up the steps, and there was. Let me see if I can find a picture of it for you. So inside. This is a picture from the outside of it. Oh, excuse me. You can't really tell. So it is actually hexagonal. This whole thing goes round the back. And inside, I assumed there would be evidence of building work in, all the way up. If you know what I mean. So like other keeps where you go in and you can, even if the floors have now been taken out, you can see where the floors would have been. It's not like that. There's a kind of part that over the gatehouse which had rooms in it, and the rest of it was an open courtyard, presumably with sort of lean-to type roofing for things. So it was really, really charming. And so you go right back to there, and then you get the next big thing you notice at the castle is the Victorian Gothic pleasure palace that was created. I actually don't know what he was aiming for. I probably could find out, but this is the third. Now let me get this right, because I always say this wrong. The third Marquess of Bute. Now the second Marquess of Bute had made a heap of money. He started exporting coal from Cardiff and just made a lot of money. So by the time the third Marquess, I've never said it out loud, sort of his father died. The third Marquess was thought to be the richest man in the world at the time, and he had a lot of the castle rebuilt on top of the Roman foundations and the Roman walls built up as well. So you have this odd mix of sort of him putting the Roman walls back, building what looks like it could be a medieval castle from the outside, and then yes, that's it. Let me show you. So he builds this bit, and inside, so some of you would have seen this. I've done a reel. I'm also on TikTok, by the way, if you want to come and find me on TikTok. I am trying at _British_history, because unfortunately I had British history, decided I didn't like TikTok and got rid of the original one. Anyway, someone else has got it now. But I did a TikTok showing some of the interiors and a reel showing some of the interiors at this Victorian part of the castle. Now they are bling-tastic. However, so it can look like it's a bit much, but I have to say, and some people said this as well. Now, obviously, there's like this is a Moroccan style ceiling or Moroccan-inspired ceiling in one of the rooms. Now, the Tudors, if we want to think about Tudors for a minute, who were here, were, they liked very well before. They liked everything to be colourful, and and I don't know that it wouldn't have been something that sort of Henry VIII would have approved of. Maybe he liked his Turkish baths, didn't he, and things like that. But there's no part of the interior of the castle left undecorated at all. Like, it is. I don't actually know how they had the time. There must have been so many people working on it. So this is Lord Bute's bedroom. I couldn't actually get into this one, but this is quite indicative of that was closed on that day. But I think they're still struggling for volunteers. But they that's quite indicative of the decor throughout. The library was fantastic. I've actually got better photos of the library than this. I'll share some more, but if you have a look at my reel, you'll see quite a few, and you'll see I've taken some footage just looking into a stairwell. So not public access, and probably not the main access for the family and their guests, and yet completely covered in decoration. So it's I still am undecided as to whether I like it. I think I am erring on the side of I like it. It's interesting. It's not magnolia walls, it's not beige walls. He went for it, and he built this great hall. Again, I've got better pictures than this actually, which I'll share. Oh yes, Mad Journalist. I do. I buy the books when I go there. This one actually it's not the best, I have to say. I might start rating guidebooks to let you know whether to spend your money on them or not. This is just full of photos, so and a little bit of information. But yeah, so the Marchioness built this great hall and had it massively decorated. So I think it's more invoking the theme of the imagination, inspired by medieval and Tudor England. So I don't know. I think I quite like it. And the last thing about Cardiff Castle that I was going to mention to you, anyone who's interested, who finds the World Wars interesting, I don't think I've done my reel on this, so I will. But in the curtain wall in World War II, they built an air raid shelter, effectively, for the people of Cardiff. Now, Cardiff, remember I said, had got rich on the export of coal. So it was a large population, but of course, fueling literally the British effort. So they were a target for the German Air Force bombing raids. So the Bute family had these air raid shelters created in the sorry, I'm just trying to read these comments, in the castle walls, which are eerie and amazing all at the same time to go into. A canteen, it shows the canteen still there, probably recreated, but is that kind of thing. So there's beds in there. It shows how it would have been. Yeah, so let me just see. So Mad Journalist, I remember I loved the Tower of London guide, but yeah, that's not bad. But felt they could have put a few more photos in. We'll definitely buy to replace this one. I have a 1960s Tower of London guidebook. I love that when something that is about history becomes history itself. It's called, I have heard it referred to as follow-on history. I really like that. And guidebooks, I think, and books about traveling through history. So I have one about the cathedrals of Britain, which was written during the Second World War. I think it might have been the First World War, because I remember being surprised that someone was writing a travel book in the middle of a war. And of course, that book is now history. And the type of information, this is what I like as well, the type of information they found interesting then, it's not right or wrong, but it might be different to what is chosen to put into a guidebook or a book today. And so they're really good, useful resources for that reason. Plus, you can see how people wrote a book in the 1920s, 30s, 50s, 60s, whatever it is that you're looking at. And I find that fascinating. Jenna, it's difficult to go to historical sites and not want to buy every book in the gift shop. I usually use my hands as binders, so I won't be tempted. Oh, well, I have some book purchases to share with you in a bit, not just the guidebooks. The guidebooks are kind of a given as they are for you. So thank you, Janice. Yes, hopefully do. Yeah, I've got some basically things I inherited, and they're very, very special and precious and interesting. So, and I will share things with you like that when they're relevant, because it is useful. So and interesting, sorry. So that was Cardiff Castle. I will, if I haven't, I'm sure I haven't actually shared the reel of the air raid shelters, but it's eerie, fascinating, and brings home in some way just how blinking dangerous people's lives were in the Second World War, at constant threat of being bombed. And if you're obviously somewhere like Cardiff, that's you've got the coal mining, you've got the export of it from the bay, your need to work and your target must have been very frightening. So from Cardiff, we then made our way to Pembrokeshire and Pembroke Castle in particular, because, as you may know, and if you don't know, you're about to know, it is the birthplace of Henry VII. When Henry VII was born, he was born to the 14-year-old Margaret Beaufort, who had lost her husband, Edmund Tudor, only a few months prior. So she had gone to Pembroke Castle, which was, can't say owned, because the castles were sort of given with roles, but it was Jasper Tudor, so her brother-in-law, Margaret Beaufort's brother-in-law, who was living at Pembroke Castle, and she went to him for sanctuary. And it is at Pembroke Castle that she gave birth to Henry, who would become Henry VII. She named him after Henry VI, who was the king at the time. And there is a tower there that they call the Henry VII Tower. I couldn't work out whether they were saying for definite that he was born in the room that they've sort of set up as it. It was it's on the curtain wall, but it's very substantial. Pembroke Castle is beautiful and intriguing. So you get to basically clamber around most of it. Lots and lots of steps, lots of little corridors, lots of entrances and exits onto the curtain wall. And that's before you get to the keep, which William Marshall built, and the private apartments is you can tell there's a chapel, the remains of a chapel. You can tell from the shape of it and the windows. That bit's all in ruin. So you go from this bit that you can walk in and around to the ruin. Now, there is something rather special under Pembroke Castle, and you may already know this, but if you don't, again, I have a reel about this, so have a look after this. There is under the Great Hall, there is so you go through an entrance or exit down some stone spiral stairs, and you end up in this cave called Wogan's Cavern. Well, that's what it's called now, Wogan's Cavern. and there's evidence that human beings inhabited that cave 12,000 years ago, and intermittently since. And it is huge. And I hung around there for a while, trying to get photographs and bits of video. And everyone who came in, and I did this when I walked in, everyone who got to the bottom of those stairs, because you're watching your feet, you're watching your feet, watching your feet. You get to the bottom and you look up and it's like, oh, wow. And it's this huge cave, and I got this, I don't know, feeling. It was awe-inspiring. It's huge, natural, and humans have been utilizing this cave over thousands and thousands and thousands of years. It was really, really incredible. And this is underneath Pembroke Castle. So yeah, it was fabulous. And so the keep is round, this one. This is why I'm wondering whether Cardiff were trying to go for round, couldn't quite work it out, went hexagonal, or maybe they were just testing things out. Do you remember when I went to Chepstow, and the keep there is a rectangle or oblong shape. So maybe they just didn't. Maybe I'm thinking, oh, keep needs to be like this and this and this height and this shape. And they were just like, right, throw up the keep there. Yeah, round one will do there. Or a fancy hexagonal this time. I don't know. Someone probably knows. Lisa went there in 2016 and thought how large and amazing it is. Yeah, absolutely. Lottie Rose, you must have been as well. It's incredible. Yes. Actually, out of all the places that I've been more recently, that's the one. Wogan's Cavern particularly is the one that I walked into and got some sort of feel of human beings. Do you know, does that sound really odd? So yeah. Oh, Lisa says, unusual for the keep to have a roof on it. Yes. A roof and no floors. So the keep was what I was expecting to see more like at Cardiff. When I said, actually, there was the keep at Cardiff, you've got the gatehouse tower, which you could still go in. The staircase was on the outside and extremely steep. I was like, why is no one going down on their bottom? This is very steep. You could do that, but the court, it was almost like a mini Bailey, I thought, the keep at Cardiff. But yes, as Lisa says, at Pembroke, the keep has the roof on it. Now, I think that roof has been put back on, and I don't know when. And the reason I say that is because there's a picture here from the end of the 18th century. There's a painting here that's end of 18th, start of 19th century, and it has no roof. So presumably a bit like Ludlow have put a roof back on the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. I think that was put back on. I don't know for what reason. Do you know what? There was a cone in the bottom. You couldn't go into the bottom of the keep, but there was a cone. So when I was trying to take the photos, if you see a photo with a cone in it, it's an accident, because I didn't mean to take a photo with it. Bizarre. But you can go up. There's was it spiral staircase at the edge of the keep, so you can actually do all the height of the keep, and you can get out onto the roof. So you can get out onto the roof and see back over the whole the Bailey and all the curtain wall and the gatehouse. See back over to Henry VII's Tower, where presumably he was born. There was actually going to be a wedding on there the day I was there, so there's also a big fat white marquee in the middle when I was there, which, never mind. There's always something. And they've got a map of Wales as well on the floor, big map of Wales, which the kids love because they can run around this massive map of Wales. It's really, really fun. When you when you come out of Pembroke Castle, this is where, if you've ever seen, and if you've seen my post about it, the statue of Henry VII sits on a bridge underneath the castle. And originally there was a mill there. Hello, Celia, how are you doing over there in Brazil? Thank you for joining. Hi, Chewing Gums, how are you? Thank you for your comment about the latest video. I'm glad you enjoyed. Oh, I should mention that actually, shouldn't I? I've got another video out, which I've released, so I will let you know about that in a moment. Yeah, so this is where you see this iconic statue of Henry VII. So it stands where a corn mill once stood, powered by the river, and so you can see the castle in the background of the photograph I took. Morning, Brianna, how are you? Sorry, I'm just going to take a sip of my water. It's really picturesque. There's lots of lovely food. I didn't get a Welsh cake though. I went past a specialist Welsh cake shop and I thought, no, because I'm still on the post-lockdown, get rid of that weight journey. And so I said no, thinking I would definitely get another chance. And no, I didn't. The only other chance I got was some stale ones, which I had to take back. So that was rather disappointing. So if you ever get a chance to go to Pembroke, and what I think I would like to do is incorporate it into a tour in the future. It's a long way to go, but I think it's worth it. And like I say, I said earlier, most of it was built by William Marshall, who's only just had his statue put up. So he also has a statue. William Marshall is known as the greatest knight. I'm reading a book about him at the moment. He is buried at the Temple Church in London. He became a knight of the Knight Templar on his deathbed. But yeah, so he has I think he last went into battle as well when was he 70 years old? He was old. But a fighting fit man by the sound of it for quite a long time. So he's fascinating, and he is linked to Pembroke. And of course, it's the birthplace of Henry VII. And I would definitely recommend going down to Wogan's Cavern if you have to do it. You have to do it. Although I did hear some busybody. But why do people do this? So at the top of the steps, this is before I'd gone down, there was a man who stopped a lady taking her grandson down because he said it wasn't for kids. Like, he left that woman basically not able to take her grandson down into the cavern because this guy had just decided he didn't think it was suitable. It was absolutely fine. It's a bit weird. Don't understand that. So that was Pembroke, and I'm going to write about Pembroke for patrons in the next quarter. So the next quarter will be August, September, October. I will release the calendar for that as soon as I have finalised what I'm doing. We've got some great interviews lined up as well. As those of you who are already patrons will know, because I asked you to submit some questions for the people we've been interviewing, which is what every patron can do, by the way. If you are a patron and I'm going to be interviewing a historian, you will get opportunity to put your questions to them. Imagine it's definitely no spring chicken. By the time he was last in battle, you'd think they'd let him have a bit of rest. I don't think, maybe he didn't do rest. Maybe he just wasn't good at doing rest. I don't know. Yeah, chewing gums, people are just miserable. It was like he was pretending to be helpful, but then was being completely unhelpful. Like, just keep your nose out. I hadn't been down by then, so I didn't really know whether he had a point or not. I think had I already have gone down, I'd have been a busybody then as well, but maybe said, I think it's probably quite good down there for him. Yeah, busybody, that is a great word for it, mad journalist. Yes. Yeah, I don't know what his problem was. I mean, I'd imagine the kid would have gone down and done what every child of that age should do in huge areas that echo, and have a good old scream and shout and see how loud he could be. But they're kids, why not? Yeah, of course it's suitable for kids. Yeah. Trying to control others, Lisa. Yeah, I know. Busybody. Just, don't do that. Maria, how are you doing? So we're talking about Pembroke Castle. I've been talking about my recent trip. We're 3 sites in out of 4. So we've done Sudeley, we've done Cardiff, we've done Pembroke, and the and just Maria, if you didn't hear that, I was just talking about a busybody getting involved and telling someone not to take their grandson down into a place called Wogan's Cavern underneath Pembroke Castle, which is awe-inspiring, and absolutely no reason why she shouldn't be have taken her grandchild down into there. But for some reason, this guy decided to jump in and say it wasn't suitable. Very bizarre. Very bizarre. Now, other than Tudor history is probably one of my biggest loves of history, although I'm pretty much an all-in girl for it all. Chewing gums, he sounds like the type of guy who had filed a noise complaint because the kid was shouting. I know. I do think the British have a weird attitude to children. I know when my children were little, if you go to something like the continent, it'd be like, kids would be in restaurants and everything. And then here at the same time, I don't know if it's the same now, you took a kid into a restaurant and people were like, oh, there's a child in the restaurant. Like, we're not going to teach them how to behave in a restaurant if people are going to be mean to them as soon as they come into the restaurant. I went to one place, this is totally getting off the beaten track, but into one place once and they had an A4 menu and the entire other side of the menu was dedicated to telling you why they didn't want children in the restaurant, but they weren't banning them. And I was like, mine were fine, mine were well behaved and everything, but I was like, no, I'm sorry, these people are not getting my money, and I left. Jenna says, we have huge caverns here in the US that I've been to, and there are always children going down into the caverns. Some people are bizarre. They are. I just didn't understand it. I did not understand it. So shall we move on? So I was just saying Tudor history. So Tudor history is what drew me to the Cardiff Castle, not so much, but Pembroke Castle. And then my other love, and it's growing as well, but it was quite strong already, is for Roman Britain. I flipping love it. It's 2,000 years old. If any of you have seen my Instagram today, you'll see I've put an object on. It is what do they call it? What did they call it? A harness stud. So from a horse's harness. So it would decorate the harness. And it's about so big. No, but so is my cheek. And it is exquisite. It is beautiful. And it's 2,000 years old, nearly 1,900 years old or something. So I love Roman Britain. I also love going to Rome itself. Use any excuse anytime, but I love going to Rome. And so for my last stop of the trip, which wasn't quite the last stop, but I'll tell you about that in a moment, we went to a place called Caerleon, Caerleon. And you might think that Leon is is as in the French for lion, but it's not. I found out it comes from the word legion, because Caerleon was a legion base. So it's a Roman legion base. It was one of 3 permanent legion bases. There was York, Chester, and here, and it's called Isca when it was Roman. Now, when I went, I saw it on Google Maps from above, and I thought that'll be nice. I've had my daughter with me, wanted to take her somewhere she could climb around and have a bit of fun. And so I thought Roman ruins, that'll do. Lottie Rose, on the train from London Bridge to Waterloo. Okay, yeah, I've not done that route. You can see the uncovered Roman mosaic if you look out the left window. How cool is that? Oh, honestly. If we'd have kept some of that culture, I think, so the health culture, I mean, but clearly there was a lot of it that needed to go. But the building, the sort of the planning, the requirement for efficiency, the requirement to look after your health, in terms of exercise and rest. I'm thinking of the baths here. It just it inspires me. I'm like, oh, these are people who are expected to fight at any time, and they needed to be healthy, and they took it really, really seriously. So I saw from Google Maps, when I had a look, I was looking at what was en route home, and I saw that it said Roman amphitheatre. Now, from Google Maps, if you look at Caerleon, you will see that there's the outline of an amphitheatre. Yes, Lisa, the aqueducts. I mean, incredible. They weren't the only ones, of course, to put in aqueducts, but as long as water has got a little decline, whatever you call that, then it's going to move. And they worked that out and could move it for miles and miles and miles. Brilliant. Engineering therefore, yes. So from Google Maps, you can see this picture of the outline of the amphitheatre. Well, when I got there, I thought I was expecting maybe just some few bits of stone, but it may need to be just earthwork left. It wasn't. It was lots of stone left, lots of it. So you could see the outline clearly, where the seating was clearly. You could see, oh, hi, History Biz Club, how are you? I've just covered Pembroke, which you would have, it's probably good that you weren't here for that because you know it inside out. You could see, so we're talking about Caerleon now and the amphitheatre there. The gate, so the stones for the gates, so the entranceways, you could see where the gladiators would have come in for the games, prisoners as well, same entrance. You could see, so there was two main entrances into the arena, and then there was another three on each side. I've done it again. There's a reel, so you can have a look. And one of them, I thought, well, what is that? That is different. And it went straight off the arena, but it didn't go anywhere. It went into sort of almost if you think of a Tudor bread oven, almost like that. And it turns out that is where there was a goddess, and I can't remember the name, which goddess it is, who is the Roman goddess of sort of justice, and I think it was justice and violence or something like that. I might have that wrong. So you could see where this goddess statue would have stood to bless, the amphitheatre and the games within it. You could walk through an archway that led up to the seating area and walk up the steps to where the seating area would have been. So, I was at Wembley Stadium last night, and it was a little bit like a mini Wembley Stadium. You could sort of start to understand. I mean, if you think about a stadium now, it is an amphitheatre. It's a Roman amphitheatre. Shape, the way people come in and out, the way the players now come in and out onto the pitch. So I find it absolutely fascinating, as you can tell. So have a look at my reel of that if you haven't already, and you'll get to see a bit more about it. No, Lisa, Minerva was she was water. So at Bath, you've got the temple to the goddess Minerva, Sulis Minerva. They merged the Old English and the Roman, didn't they? Hello, Emma. How are you doing? But there was Roman baths there also. So really good remains of the Roman baths. And Minerva, I'm pretty sure it was Minerva who they had a tablet of still that had been recovered from the site. Remains of the barracks, or some of the barracks. Not all of them, because there wouldn't be much town if you'd kept all the remains there. Oh, Lisa, I don't know. I genuinely can't remember. I'd have to look it up. But they produced this. If you ever go to Caerleon, It's free to go in the amphitheatre, to go to the amphitheatre. It's free to look at the barracks. It's free to go into, and you must do this, go into the National Roman Legion Museum, which is there. I did that first, actually. That's a good top tip. And if you, the post that I've put on today of that horse harness stud, that is an artifact that's in that museum, and there's so many incredible artifacts in that museum, and I'll share more over the next few weeks. And but then the only thing you pay to go into is the Roman baths. But when you do, they give you this leaflet book thing, which looks, she said, it looks like it's for children, or it looks like a cartoon. It is a cartoon, but she says, but the information is really good, and she wasn't wrong. And also, if you want to learn Welsh, you just turn it up the other way, and it's in Welsh. So the remains of the baths were very interesting, because what they have is the remains, this is obviously their drawing of it, they have the remains still of this long outdoor pool. Brilliant, because it's for exercise. So they don't have these big wide pools that are short. They had one long pool. They knew what they were doing, I tell you. Oh, and this is their artist's impression of the it was Nemesis. Oh, Nemesis. There you go. The goddess Nemesis, the goddess of fate and vengeance, who punished crime. And a Nemesis curse tablet was found in the amphitheatre and is now on display in the museum. So this is what they think. Well, this is obviously an artist's impression of the amphitheatre. And this is the one I was saying about. This is where that tablet would have been of Nemesis. Nemesis, of course. Of course. So it was a fantastic place to go and have a look at. So if you do manage to get to Caerleon, go into the National Roman Legion Museum. That's free. Go and see the amphitheatre. Go and see the barracks. They're very close together. It's all very close together. And then the baths, go and see the bath. I think it was for £4 to go in, £4 or £5, and they give you that leaflet. and it's really good. It's a really good leaflet. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Lisa likes my ring. It's my knuckle duster. No, it's quite cool, isn't it? What's Jenna say? Rather than a meat-laden diet. Oh, hang on, sorry. Where have I gone? Right, my husband and I watched a documentary on Netflix about the consumption of meat in the human diet versus vegetarian. They brought up the gladiators primarily ate a vegetarian diet. Oh, that's interesting. Have you ever tried putting down muscle on a vegetarian diet? Interesting. I think they probably, well, I'd have to watch it. I think they probably did have meat. The thing is, we have meat a lot because it was expensive and we were better at producing more vegetables and we had less people. And now meat is relatively cheap and vegetables are relatively expensive and people don't grow their own. It's a bit weird. And vegetables were better quality. Anyway, that's my other hobby horse, is health and fitness. But anyway, that's not relevant today. So we've done Sudeley, Cardiff Castle, Pembroke Castle, and now Isca, which is now Caerleon. So it was a fantastic trip, and like I said, I'll be sharing more stuff from it over the next few weeks, I'm sure. Now, chewing gums, you have reminded me. I have a new interview out. So everything that goes into Patreon, after 12 months, I generally, it's not everything, but release release the videos. Imagine it's next to impossible. I tried it, back on the protein now, because with my gym habits, veggies alert. Yeah, you can't get enough. You can't get enough energy just from veggies. I'm sorry. I have been there, done that. They might have preferred vegetarian diets. I don't know. Have I been to the Roman amphitheatre in Arles, south of France? No, I haven't. I haven't actually been to the south of France except for on a train going through when I was interrailing, going through to Spain. which I also didn't stop in for very long because I was on my way to Italy. Which, yes. But I would love to do that. Can you imagine? I wonder how many there are. I wonder how many there are surviving. Probably quite a few. Lottie Rosen, have you been to the one underneath the Guildhall, just the remains of? That's quite atmospheric. So the interview that I have out now is it's an interview with Owen Emerson, Dr. Owen Emerson, about the history of Hever Castle. Still alive, you're only 23, darling. You've got to wait till you get into your 40s, and then everything you do in your 20s, whatever it is, will come back to haunt you. Anyway, happy days. Look forward to that. Chewing gums. Where are we? Do you think in a few hundred years' time, humans of the future will look at us and be fascinated, or just think, wow, they were more boring than the Tudors? I don't know. That definitely, I'm sure they'll find us fascinating. But isn't it interesting that you, like the more recent history, we're less interested in, and then I think as it goes further and further away, we become more interested. I think maybe as times become less familiar, we're like, oh, so it was like what then? And people thought this sort of thing, and they ate this sort of thing, and they dressed this sort of way, because it's far enough away from what we do now, that it then becomes more fascinating. That's just a little theory I've just come up with off the top of my head. So while I was, I've talked about visiting Tudor Britain. Tomorrow, I will just mention this while I think about it. We are talking Wells Cathedral. I'm leading tomorrow, and it will be on, I can't remember whether it's on, I think it's on Sarah's at the Tudor Travel Guide on her Instagram profile. So if you log on at 4:00, we will be live talking about Wells Cathedral. So join us for that. Oh, Lottie Rose. Vegan and history nerd. What a wonderful combination. Yes, so we'll be talking about Wells Cathedral tomorrow. Or Wellies, we can call it Wellies Cathedral. And of course I'll talk about it tomorrow, but the Vicar's Close, Vicar's Close, one of the most beautiful places ever. Again, I've got a reel about with that on. I did say I'd mention tours. So I now have, as of yesterday, confirmed the tour dates for 2023. Obviously, I know what the tours are as well. There's going to be 4. So the Anne Boleyn tour is already on sale. That's in May, 16th till the 20th. And there are only a couple of rooms left for that one. So if you're waiting to see what other 2023 tours there are, and then still think you want to do the Anne Boleyn one in May, get on that as soon as you can. There's a building opposite Wells, which was now a hotel that Henry VII is supposed to have stayed in. Well, that's interesting. I didn't pick up on that when I went. Did you? At Wells, though, there's also the pub where Hot Fuzz was filmed, wasn't it? Which was good. Okay, well, let me share with you one of my recent book purchases. I know you like these. Now, this is on the recommendation of Deb Broyle from Tudor Times. I have one of this man's books already. I've spoken about it quite a lot. He's the man who wrote Houses of Power, which I would thoroughly recommend to history nerds, Tudor nerds, architectural nerds, anything like that. Simon Thurley. And right, you're going to laugh at me because the size of this book, so it's called The Building of England, and Deb recommended it to me. Deb Broyle from Tudor Times and Tudor Places recommended it to me because I was talking about how I loved seeing how architecture and buildings changes throughout time, because people, the way we live, the what's important to us, what's the focus, how we live, all changes what is required. But look at it, it's an absolute. So I'm really excited about reading it. I think as well, it's one that you can dip into because it is in relatively chronological order, pretty much. Although he does talk at the front about how it's really, he talks about how we label architecture and how it's flawed. That we sort of say, oh, in this period, this architecture happened, and in this period, this architecture happened. When in reality, really, it's far more not complex, but just it's not as clear cut and beautiful as that. But that's because the way we teach, we like to categorize things into easier, understandable, bite-sized bits. So anyway, so that is a good one. Now, I'm telling you about this, but I'm actually not sure if you can get it. Now, I know some of you that when you're not in the UK, what's that bookstore that you all use instead of Amazon? There's one that you use, isn't there? Can't think what it's called. Book. You'll tell me, I'm sure. This, I could only find one on Amazon and I managed to nab it. Well, there was two, but the other one wanted to charge like £200 or something. Anyway, I didn't pay £200, I can tell you that. So if you want that, have a look. Maybe you'll have to book depository. Thank you, my journalist. Have a look. You might have to keep an eye out for a while until you can find it. The other book I bought, and again, you're going to laugh. I have talked about Ed. I didn't talk a lot about Ed. I can go back to talking about Ed as a finisher. So the other book I've bought is another tomb, just the whole history of Roman Britain, just 450 years in a book. So that's okay. So I'll be pretending to read that as well. Oh no, I must get onto it. So Phil, yes, Ed was brilliant. Ed was really good at Wembley. I might share some more photos. Everyone had their lights on. The whole stadium was lit up. No, it was really, really good. It was really good. Although I did realise how many of his tunes I knew, but not the words. And I was trying to sing along and then go, better not, because I don't know what I'm singing. No, it was fun. And everyone was singing. And it was the most in tune crowd. There was 90,000 people there. And they were really in tune and in time. It was fantastic. It was really good. It's like being in the biggest choir ever. It was fantastic. Chewing Gum's Hot Fuzz is a classic. It is a classic. And I ate in the pub near Wells Cathedral where Hot Fuzz was filmed. So, also, sorry, I've told you about May tour. So if you're interested in the tours, make sure you're on my mailing list, because on Sunday I will be releasing more information, and if it's ready, you'll be able to book. If you're on my mailing list, if you're a patron, you get more time to book before they go on general release, and some of them have genuinely sold out before they go on general release. So, but let me tell you about what we're going to. So we're going to have the Anne Boleyn tour. We've got On Progress with Anne Boleyn. We've got the Six Queens of Henry VIII. These are the working titles. Well, some of them are the working titles. And we've got an Elizabeth I and Mary Queen of Scots tour as well. So they'll be taking place May. That's the one that's already on sale. One that's the end of June into the beginning of July. Then basically I'm going to be back touring 3 days later. So another one in mid-July and then one in September. So make sure you're on my mailing list. You can get on that by following the link in my bio on Instagram, and you can get to it at britishhistorytours.com as well. Because what happens is the tours won't be available on the website whilst they're only available to the mailing list. So you will get a link and that will take you to a secret page with all the details on and the ability to book the tour. So that you basically get a week or maybe 2 to book before they go on general release. So make sure you're on the newsletter list, basically, so that you can get all the details, and maybe we'll meet in person. Some of you I know on here I am meeting in person already this year, so and maybe next year as well. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's very, very nice to meet you here and then be able to meet you in person as well. It's very special. Now Phil down there is sorting me out some beer for this tour coming up in July, because Phil is the house manager at Harvington Hall, which So you may have seen the interview I did with Phil, and also he's been on History After Dark with us, and and we're going to. I'm taking the tour group there in just a few weeks' time, 3 weeks' time, and Phil sorted out a special beer. Now I like my ale. Now I don't know how it's going to go down, but I have to try and convert some people. Maria's got to go. I also will leave you all. We're at 2:05, so thank you all for sticking with me for over an hour today. There was a lot to cover. No, I'm not even going to tell. Do you know where I haven't told you about yet? Because I only managed to, they didn't have I won't tell you the big long story. But anyway, I'm going back to Raglan Castle at some point. That is where Henry VII was raised when he was in England. So very, very significant in the Tudor story. So we will cover that at another time. If you're in Patreon, then I am going to do a virtual tour of Raglan Castle as well. And if you're not, come and join the club. It's very much fun. Right, everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Have a fantastic day. And see you all very soon. Oh, maybe see you on Visiting Tudor Britain tomorrow, 4:00, Sarah's channel at the Tudor Travel Guide. Cool. All right. See you soon. Bye-bye. No, bye, everyone. Thank you for joining.